What if I told you Wolverine almost looked completely different? And no, I don't mean just missing the yellow suit. I mean a totally different actor, a totally different origin, and even a completely different fate. Today, we're breaking down the most unusual Wolverine facts that even the biggest fans don't know. Before the one and only Hugh Jackman started playing the foul-mouthed gruff Canadian with the claws we all know and love, there were actually several other actors in contention to play the Wolverine. The first actor they chose to play Wolverine was Doug Ray Scott, perhaps most famous as the villain in Mission Impossible 2. However, it was this exact movie which made him drop out of the X-Men due to some scheduling conflicts, as well as a motorcycle accident. After this, even Russell Crowe was considered. However, he wasn't interested.
And the other role, famously, Wolverine, which Hugh Jackman, of course, has done a brilliant job with, right?
Brilliant.
We agree.
And there's no way I would have ever done that.
Why?
And instead suggested a relatively unknown Australian actor, Hugh Jackman, who was his friend, for the role instead. Hugh did end up getting hired, but almost immediately got himself fired. He came on set and was acting all wolfy, not knowing that the Wolverine was an actual animal, and thinking the name was just derived from wolf instead. On top of that, he was nowhere near tough enough to play the part, and really had to put himself through a hard training regime to get as bulky and gruff as possible for the part. That's why most of the scenes with him shirtless were filmed near the end of filming, since he had only then gotten bulky enough to look the part. Despite the fact that he was way too tall for the role and lacked his legendary yellow and blue outfit for the comics, Hugh Jackman morphed into Wolverine, and almost immediately after X-Men 1 became a fan favorite. One of the moments when Jackman fully cemented himself into the Wolverine role was when he had a very specific request when asked to do a cameo in X-Men First Class. He was contacted to appear in a quick scene where Charles Xavier and Magneto go into a bar while trying to recruit mutants, and ask him to join them. Hugh Jackman would only do the scene if they allowed him to say exactly what he wanted, and drop an F-bomb, staying in line with Wolverine's gruff and foul-mouthed attitude. The producers agreed, and we got one of the most legendary cameos of all time.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Charles Xavier.
Go fuck yourself.
But this was not the first cameo Wolverine was supposed to have. All the way back in 2002, when Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was about to hit the big screen, Jackman was asked about if he would do a quick cameo as Wolverine in the movie. Hugh was in New York at the time of filming, and the plan was to get him in the suit and have him just either walk through a scene or just be there, on screen, as a cool little gag. Unfortunately, the suit was unavailable to them at the time, and the cameo just never ended up happening, and we were robbed of the first mini X-Men and Spider-Man crossover, which would have happened all the way back in 2002. People really like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, despite him not being comic accurate all the time. However, not all fans were big fans of the liberties taken when telling Wolverine's origin story. In the 2009 movie X-Men Origins Wolverine, the creators took upon them to change a few things up about Logan, as well as when and where he came from, and many fans were fuming. For example, in the movie, Wolverine is said to have been born in 1845, and is shown fighting in the American Civil War and all the wars after that. However, in the comics, he wasn't even born until 1880. Also, his biggest arch-nemesis, Sabretooth, perhaps to give it a little more personal edge, was changed to be his half-brother, Victor Creed. In the comics, Sabretooth is his most brutal and sadistic enemy, and their rivalry hasn't got anything to do with some family drama. It's pure hatred, built on decades of violence. The Weapon X program was also way darker in the comics. Instead of willingly joining, Logan was captured, experimented on, and had his memory repeatedly wiped, losing everything, over and over again, as opposed to him being shot with the adamantium bullet at the end of the movie and losing his memory that way. Of course, the most noticeable change made between the comic book version of Wolverine and the Wolverine we have come to love for the past 20 years is the fact that he lacks his legendary yellow suit for most of his time on screen. For years, fans begged to see Wolverine in his classic yellow suit, but movie after movie, all we got was the same tank top and jeans combo. He was actually even supposed to wear it for the Wolverine movie from 2013, but the closest we ever got was a deleted scene, where Logan looks at the suit in a briefcase. And that was it. No suit up, no action scene, just a tease. And fans were absolutely devastated that Hugh had retired in 2017, without him ever donning the yellow and blue. It wasn't until 2024, Almost 25 years after the original X-Men movie that Jackman finally put on the suit and cowl in Deadpool and Wolverine. And not just the yellow and blue suit, we got the black and yellow variant too, on the variant of Wolverine that was fighting the Hulk. Finally, after 2 decades, fans got the Wolverine they had been waiting for. We all know that the Wolverine is practically unbeatable and has a super strong healing factor. However, did you know that part of what makes him so strong is exactly what ends up bringing him down? The adamantium, put inside Wolverine's body by William Stryker during the Weapon X program, has, while making his claws stronger and skeleton more resilient, also brought him some terrible consequences. In the comics, it is revealed that the adamantium actually acts as a hindrance and effectively puts a cap on his mutant powers, which would mean that Logan would be much more in tune with his mutant powers, with them even growing stronger as time goes by, making him completely feral had he not had adamantium implanted in him. On top of that, from the beginning, the adamantium has been slowly poisoning Logan's body, with his healing factor constantly having to fight the metal poisoning on a daily basis. Part of this is the reason why in Logan from 2017, the Wolverine is shown struggling to heal and fight as he once could. Most fans often attribute his worsening state and lack of healing factor as something that had come solely from the adamantium poisoning. However, one blink and you miss a detail in Logan proves differently. In a scene in Logan, it is mentioned that the mutant cure is present in almost all of the corn syrup in the United States, which is why no mutants are being born. However, what this also means is that Logan has also inadvertently been constantly poisoning himself every day by drinking beer and eating all sorts of things that contain corn syrup, which has completely destroyed his healing factor, leaving his body unable to fight off the metal poisoning. But we've all asked ourselves at some point, can Wolverine actually be unalived? Sure, the adamantium poisoning is already destroying him internally, but can he actually be immediately destroyed in his prime, in a way in which his healing factor wouldn't be able to help? And the answer is yes, and this is even shown in the movies. One of the most famous and viable ways to unalive the Wolverine is to drown him, since there's really pretty much nothing his healing factor can do. In fact, it almost makes it worse, since Logan gets on the edge of drowning and the healing factor kicks in just enough to heal him a little, only for him to drown again. In the comics, he even uses this fact to unalive his own son, Daken. And Tony Stark himself builds him a suit so that he can fight underwater too. In the movies, this can also be seen when Magneto sends him flying into the river, only for Mystique to rescue him, disguised as William Stryker, at the end of Days of Future Past. One common misconception that many people have about Wolverine is that they use the comic in which the Wolverine regenerated from a single drop of blood as irrefutable proof that he is completely invincible. While that is true, people also fail to mention that he was powered by an alien crystal with infinite power at the time, meaning that he can indeed be unalived, if without any power-ups. And there you have it, some of the craziest, most unusual Wolverine facts that only true fans know. From almost being played by someone else, to missing out on his legendary suit for decades, to the secrets behind his healing factor, Wolverine's story is even wilder than you thought. But what makes Wolverine so special isn't just his healing or his claws. It's the fact that, no matter what happens, he keeps going. He survived wars, betrayals, and even his own body fighting against him. And yet, he never stops. He's not just one of the most badass X-Men, he's one of the greatest superheroes of all time. If you want to dive even deeper into the world of superheroes, check out our video on the last days of superhero movies, where we break down how the genre went from box office dominance to constant flops. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to Heroscope, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more deep dives into your favorite characters. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.